Hello, this is Reverend Joseph Andrew Jensen Sr. Okay, now I made a lot of YouTube videos. This is by far the most important one. I've been quiet for pretty good while right now. I got a thing around my neck because it's cold. Okay, I'm sitting in my chair. It turned cold again. 2 weeks ago, it snowed here. Okay, well, I'm in South Carolina. Okay, this is an important message. Okay, since June the 9th, 2019, from an argument with God, God started talking to me. First time I ever heard God myself. And he talked to me. And frankly, he hasn't quit talking. I've been listening to God for ever since 2019. And I've gone where God he sent me since 2019 and done what he asked me to do. I mean, who's not smart enough not to do what God asks you to do? I'll never do that. But here's the point. God told me yesterday, first time I put the whole thing together. I'm worried because of what I'm going to tell you inside my book. But God's saying, Joe, you write the book of what I'm going to tell you today. Write the book is what it's going to be today. Of the world that's already been written. That's not been shocks in life. Not when Adam and Eve sinned. Not when they put them out the garden. Not even when the angels came. Then nothing shocked him. He just watched us. He gave us free will to see what we would do. He couldn't interfere or help us, though he tried. Not to to keep us on course, he sent angels, watchers as well, to do as much as they can, but not to be recognized, and to help us in situations, but not to alter our courses. It's just kind of nudge us in the right direction. And these things were just to give a better appreciation to what's going on. These people that they went to, they were basically, God chose them. They were kind of like prophets. People that had these testimonies. He did it so that they would. I won't say they're prophets. They became the hands and feet and mouth of God. That was what my argument said. God told me, he says in the argument, please, Joe, quit blaming me. I don't have any hands to help you or stop anybody. I don't have any feet to run save you from a fire or to run to put a fire out. I don't have a mouth to call 911 or yell stop. Okay? Simple. I mean, it's an obvious, it makes all the sense in the world. Common sense. We all should know that God lives inside us. To the point that nothing in this world wasn't created, wasn't built, wasn't there that God doesn't know about, because they were God's thoughts. They were your imagination, your thoughts belonged to God. I told you I was a crane operator for 35 years. How close to God with a crane operator as you are driving a car. Nobody comes between me and my levers but God. But God's got to push a button or pull a lever or fire the snaps in your brain somehow for me to move. Now, when I say to move, in order to move, we have to think. That's a whole sense that we don't even recognize, just like we don't recognize God. To think. The power to think. God gave us the power to think. If it were any other source that we're living by, electricity, nuclear energy, or radiation, anything that's going on, we wouldn't have a thought. We couldn't think. But today there's some thinking going on. It's called A&I. Too much thinking. The people that created A&I, They're looking for world dominance. They're looking to be God themselves. But I got news for you. Not only is God coming back, He has never left here. He's been inside every one of us. But God's going to let you know. You're gonna love what God's going to do. He's going to make it known. He's coming back with GODScoin. Y'all, everybody will receive GODScoin. At least one. The handicapped children and things, it could be up to 5. People with problems, up to 5. Depending on your situation and how generous I leave in the hands of the bankers, of the CEOs in my banks. My banks will be called the GODScoin banks. I will ask CEOs. I'll ask for all banks, everybody in the world. If you want a job, you got one. Any CEO, that's a banker, that's anybody over housekeeping, landscaping, cooking, because there'll be cafeterias inside the bank for the customers and the employees to eat at banks. They'll make $2,400,000 a year, 2 GODScoin. Everybody's going to get a GODScoin, remember? Depending on their situation, if they got somebody that is a handicap or mentally retarded or whatever, and by the way, those same people will be on the job as well because they work as teams. But every person in this world that is 18 years old to 40 years old will get paid 1 GODScoin a month. Each GODScoin is going to be worth $100,000. So that's $1,200,000 a year. Like I said, the CEOs are going to be the ones there responsible to train everybody. And now I'm not going to expect the bank CEO to train janitors. I'm not going to make him responsible to train CEO the cooks and the restaurant staff. I'm not going to have him be over the landscaping. So there'll be 5 or 6 CEOs, people making $2,400,000 a year, organizing that bank. Those banks that they're going to get built, I want one on every street corner, within walking distance of everybody's home. They can walk down the street. At the end of their street, at either end, will be one of their banks. The bank will have their name on it, along with GODScoin. It's their bank. It's their neighborhood. It's where they chose. I need pretty close to 1 billion bankers because I need to have 1 billion banks built. Who's got 1 billion banks? China's the new Bank of China for commercial and industrial banking doesn't even have 1 billion customers, and I'm going to have that many banks. Why? Because there's 9 billion people in this world nobody's going to refuse GODScoin. But everybody would be told to go all in. That means everything they make, they'll get the GODScoin first. But everything they have to turn it over in whatever currency they have. If you're in Burundi, you're going to turn it in Burundian francs. If you're in Congo, it's going to be the Congolese franc. If you're in Sudan, it's going to be the Sudanese pound. If you're in Egypt, it's going to be the Egyptian pound. If you're in Colombia, South America, it's going to be the Colombian peso. Everybody's going to use their own thing. One of the first places that I'm going to focus on is all of Africa and North Korea and South Korea. In South Korea, they use won. These things, everything's going to come together, and I'll explain it as you go, as you're working. As an employee, everybody be an employee, they'll work a 6-hour day. Well, they actually work an 8-hour day, but they'll work 6 hours at the bank, and they'll be learning, going there as a student on the job training, OJT. They'll be taught every day, helped by the bank man, the CEO, the bank managers. In the restaurant, if you're a cook, you're going to learn how to serve the table, so you're going to learn how to cook, and you're going to learn the whole thing. And there might be somebody that is got a handicap or retarded in the team. They're only there as a student to learn. Anybody that's not working in God's service getting that money will be, if they're not working, they're going to school. School's going to be different. I said God's coming here to build heaven on earth. What does that mean? That means the angels will be coming by. Yeah. Why do we know so much now, and how do we get this far? Because the angels during the day of Enoch, and God knew all about it. He watched them do it. He gave the angels, took their own free will. They took free will, and they went out on their own. They struck out on their own. Those that did their free will, like man, did their own free will, they're like the enemies of God, but he can't touch them. Why? Because you can't do anything in life that won't affect the whole thing, especially when it's already written down. You got to follow the script, word for word, step by step, unless an angel or somebody intervened for God during that time to urge you back on course, or urge it another way if you wanted to be a script writer. Those many angels have been on this earth. Now, they've always been here, but they move at the speed of light, the speed of God. Well, I don't even know if that's not way on faster than the speed of light. The point of the matter is, they were with us all the time, and we can't see them, just like we can't see God. God lives inside us, but we can see God. Go have an MRI taken of yourself, of your brain. Every time that synapse fires, that is God. That's what God looks like. He looks like energy. Boom, boom, boom. He looks like a spark. Too bright for Moses to look upon. It's just like, Moses come down from the Mount Sinai. I'm watching him right now on Josh Gates in the Sinai, and his skin was tan. He was sunburnt from looking at God. God is pure energy. I mean, how many people can look at the sun? And we're not talking about the sun here. We're talking about white light. We're talking about something incredible. But here's the thing. What's going on right now in this world? Trump. I listen to him. Oh, I'm so mad at him. I just come from Jerusalem. I was in the hospital in Jerusalem. Only back in August. I think I got out came back home August the 25th. The embassy got me back here. I was kicked out of the hospital. And a guy, I asked him if he's a Hell's Angel. He was an American, but he's in Israel. He said he was a motorcyclist. He had a motorcyclist jacket on in Jerusalem. And I said, "Are you Hell's Angel?" He says, "No, I'm God's angel." He paid for a cab, and he paid the cab driver to get me to the embassy, and he gave me 30 shekels, 130 shekels besides that. Holy cow. I mean, I've had an amazing journey that I'll tell you about afterwards. I've had an amazing 5 years since June 9th, 2019. I'm God's messenger. That's how I wrote God's message. It's inside the store. But it's way different than it was at the beginning. Now he's not going to give you the whole message. He's just going to tell you what to do. That's what the book's going to start out. He's going to tell you, and it's already written. You can't change it. It's not a choice anymore. The people will show up to build the banks. The CEOs will come. Engineers, architects, engineers will be hired by the CEOs of the bank, of the landscapers, of the cooks. The material they need will be charged on GODScoin. Will actually come from their own pockets. And GODScoin. Because everybody's got to be all in. This is happening immediately. It's going to happen like pretty much overnight, like a thief in the night, like it's written. But the Bible is wrong. The Torah is wrong. The Quran is wrong. Every one of them has a problem. The word indoctrination, when you was indoctrinated into these religions, you were brainwashed to believe every word was the word of God. No, it's the word of men. Men, that were corrupt and stealing and doing things they shouldn't do, doing their own will. But they wrote these words and stole these words. Paul stole the words of all the apostles. He wasn't an apostle himself. He was never with Christ. He was against Christ. He was the Antichrist that he wrote about. To prove that, look up Paul's death, and just a simple thing like Wikipedia search. It'll say he died 68 AD. Then it'll say who else died in 68. Well, Mark died in 68 AD. And then it'll say, guess who else died? Committed suicide was Nero. Why? Because Peter's church, the followers of Peter, he had disappeared. Peter disappeared in 64 AD. Nobody knew where he was at. He just simply disappeared. Him and his brother Andrew. John disappeared too. They were the last apostles. And John was disappeared, but he was put on the Isle of Patmos in Ephesus. And during that time, they didn't even know what Paul was doing. It wasn't until Timothy came and sought Peter. Timothy came and sought Peter, and he says, I've been with Paul from the beginning. And I tried to go with him, but he won't let me go. He won't let me read his words. He leaves me with Silas. Silas is a good man. But Silas never went. I went as in Jerusalem to look at to find the records. Whether I could find the records or the Jews could find the records, the students could find the records in Jerusalem. To look and see if Paul and Silas were actually in jail, and to see and get the records of the Senate records. But what happened in 64 AD? It was Timothy that went to see Peter, and he found Peter. He found Peter and Andrew and John, and he told them, I don't know where he's going, and I don't get to read his books. He's just leaving me with Silas. But I know he's going someplace all the time. So Peter and Andrew and John waited for Paul to come back from one of his trips, from one of his churches. 5 churches: the Church of Galatia, the Church of Philippi, the Church of Thessalonica, the Church of Philadelphia. Whatever, all 5 churches. I am autistic, and I don't want to get sidetracked here. But the 5 churches, and these 5 churches, he never knew where they were at if he wasn't seeing Nero, because Nero's the one that sent him there. If you read through Paul, and my God, people, if you're a Pentecostal Christian, and you got the gift of tongues like I got when I was 50 years old, the gift of tongues, you would know it's obvious that Paul was the Antichrist. Jesus said, the Antichrist will come to you as a wolf in sheep's clothing. You come as a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay? Exactly. He was sent by Nero to find out what they're talking about in his tongues. He wanted to know what they're talking about or stop them. All of Paul's words over and over were trying to listen to the 5 churches. He had somewhat against the in Revelation. I get somewhat against because they kept speaking in tongues. He couldn't get them to stop things. He asked people to prophesy, people to do anything, but don't speak in tongues. Let it be known what God wants. Paul's gospel is completely different than the gospel of Peter. There's only 4 books in the Bible written that we're sure of. But after they crucified Peter and his brother Andrew without letting anybody see the crucifixion, they didn't want anybody to know about the crucifixion. They didn't want anybody talking to them because they waited around for Paul to come back. And when Paul entered his quarters, he saw they were there inside his quarters with the books and turned to the scripture saying, though I speak in tongues, I'd rather speak one word of understanding than 10,000 words in tongues. No man that speaks in tongues can say that. I found out that anybody speaks in tongues, it's not you talking anyway, it's God. It's not to be interpreted, it's not to be understood. It's to let God talk. And the person that does do this thing is him to tell them what he thinks God said. What was he thinking about? Because God will explain himself. In English as well. Because God's behind every word comes out your mouth. Again, like the levers of a crane operator or the driver of a car. Every word that comes out my mouth, God's got to push a button or pull a lever. He's got the first word. You can't think without God. You gotta, before you can think about it, you're going to say something. But you're going to say, sometimes you don't think about it. Sometimes it just comes out. But the ability to think, electricity can't think, radiation can't think, no other power can think. But that makes us different. We're human beings. We're all immortal. Read Psalms 139. And about hell. Hell is just a relative term. I've been through hell and I've lived in hell. But too many have. Everybody in this world has gone through hell. At one point in their life or other. It's a relative term. There's no place like that. Well, Billy Graham said to everybody to hell. You don't believe the way I believe, you're going to hell. The babies, who come up with that? The innocent unborn children are going to hell. Who come up with that? We got carried away. We judge more than everybody more than we judge ourselves. Jesus said, take the mote out your own eye before you take the beam out of your own eye before you take the mote out of somebody else's. Over and over in the Bible, it tells you words. And here's the point. Over 22 books of the Bible were in question. 22 books out of 27 were questioned. 23, actually. They were questioned by the thing because you know what happened? They crucified him without letting anybody see him, to talk to them, or anything, in 64 AD. Why? Because they couldn't. They just found out he's the Antichrist, the one that he wrote about. They knew he was the Antichrist. He's the pot that calling him the kettle black. I mean, if you don't understand that, just try to figure it out. But it's common sense. The guy that's saying this is the guy that's responsible. So those books were off limits.
Hey.
Just hey, stop! Don't.
I don't care what you.
Oh.